Hello, friends. I'm no therapist, but I'm your host, Stephanie Goodman. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman of faith. Often friends ask me how I have a successful marriage while blending families and staying optimistic in life. This podcast features people with real-life stories about success in relationships and triumph over trial. If you've never heard of Brittany Crockett, then you are in for a treat. Our return guest, Doug Crockett, and his wife, Heidi, relay the dramatic events of their daughter, who lived for over 20 years with muscular dystrophy when she was only supposed to live for 2. Join us for the tears and the humor behind the miracles of Brittany Crockett. Hello and welcome to a new edition of I'm No Therapist, but today I have some dear friends in my studio. I have Doug and Heidi Crockett.
Hello.
It's good to be here.
Hello. Thank you for being in my home today. I really am excited to be able to share your story with my listeners. I don't want to spoil it, so I do want to give you the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us where you're from, and then tell us a little bit of what you're doing.
All right. Doug and Heidi Crockett. I'm going to let Heidi do a lot of talking on this story. It's a great story. She's from Alpine. I'm from Orem, and we now live in Lehigh. Mm-hmm. Been married for years, and it's been good. And so
31.
Yeah, 31 years. That was a week ago, I guess. So anyway, we're happy to be here with you. We appreciate the direction that you're going with these kinds of stories, these spiritual, important, heartwarming kinds of things. So we're glad to be here.
Well, it is an honor to have you in my home, and I'm so grateful that you're willing to share your story. So, tell us a little bit of what your family life is like right now.
Go ahead, Heidi.
It's very different now. So we have our 2 girls. One's in heaven, Brittany, and the other one, Ashley's on a mission, Newport Beach mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she just loves it. She's very happy. So we have the 2 girls, they are just. It's kind of cute because we call them our 2 missionaries. Yeah.
Oh, that's
mission
beautiful.
in heaven and one on mission in California.
Yeah. So,
wow, that's so beautiful. And so, how is it that you have a missionary in heaven?
That's a great story that's been a big part of our lives, our whole life, that we've known each other. And we had an experience, together we did. And I was in college, and with Heidi, we were just getting on with life, and we had our first child coming. Excited for that. And we had Brittany, and a delight for our family, delight of our life. And then we started to notice 14 months, 15 months that some things were not being right. She wasn't standing up and walking and those kinds of things. And so caused some concern, talked to family, talked to people, went to the doctors and what have you. And so what do you think about that?
Yeah, so she was, I noticed I was carrying her around a lot. And I was comparing her to other kids, because it was just a lot of carrying around, and I couldn't figure out why. And
Well, sure.
And then when she was first diagnosed, the doctor was looking at her and saying, I think something's up, let's go to a specialist. We're like, okay, we'll go to a specialist. And so we went to a specialist, and the specialist says, you're spoiling her too much. And
Oh, my.
so I'm all, okay, like, what am I
Who
doing?
wants to hear that as a parent?
As a new parent,
Right.
but I'm all, okay. So I started putting her bottle further away from her to kind of tempt her to go get the bottle.
Yeah.
And she'd reach for it and just scream and scream and scream. And I said, nope, I can't do it. I guess it's me, but I'm going to give her food. And I'd give her plenty of time to try, and she would try and get it, and she'd move a little bit. But so we just kept moving forward in life. And then all of a sudden, my mother-in-law, she knew a occupational therapist, and the occupational therapist when my mother-in-law was babysitting her, picked her up and said, you need to get her in immediately. And so we took
Picking her up?
Yeah.
She could tell.
Yes, immediately.
The way her body would respond when you picked her up. She wasn't holding against us and using her muscles.
So when you'd stand her, now you got to be careful because it scares some moms because their kid doesn't bear weight quite yet. Some do, some don't. It's okay. But with ours, she never did. She just, her legs would never force up.
Oh.
And then once in a while, she might a little bit, but not much. And we didn't think anything of it, you know. And then, so we went to get some testing done. And as we started to get some testing done, it was a process, and it was brutal on her.
Really?
They had to test every little thing, and it took months and months to just test her. And then our last one, who we were waiting for, was the neurologist to find out what's going on. The neurologist pulled us in and said she has spinal muscular atrophy, and it's type 2, and she will be dead at the age of 2. You can go home now. Like, seriously, it was... There's nothing you can do. So
how did that make you feel?
We just broke down. Like, you do not know how to react. You're not ready for any of that. You don't even know how to respond.
What kind of emotions do you go through hearing news like that?
So here she is at 15 months old, and we don't have
you go
time left, you know?
Quickly through the grief cycle. You start going through the sadness, and then I remember there was anger involved. There's a lot of things you're just like, why is this happening? What's going on here? And why? How can you hear that kind of news? You don't know how to process it.
Right.
What am I supposed to do with it now? How do I? And so your first thoughts are, I'll just take care of her. I will handle this. I'll fix everything by just taking care of this. That's one of the processes that I went through too. We'll just hold on to you, and we won't let anything happen to you because we're going to take care of it.
Well, and being a father, there has to be that characterization of, I'm the protector, I'm the caretaker, I'm going to take care of this.
Right. Yeah, and and there's I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to fix this, and then together, yes, we just won't let anything happen. We'll just take care of everything. But then you're living in sadness all the time.
Yeah.
And you're not coming out of it because you're just always thinking about, we're going to fix the situation. So.
Oh, yeah.
So you become very protective. So when we took her home, we protected her from falling, meaning she'd fall because she didn't have the reflex to catch herself. Yeah. So all of a sudden we were overprotecting her, and then we realized really quickly, this isn't going to work. This is driving us crazy. And so you're just trying to find solutions because you were just told, go home.
Right.
There's nothing.
Why do you think that they dealt with that in that kind of stout way?
We have no idea, you know, and every profession you'll get different situations and different people that just how they handle things and how they present things differently. They just do. And so we went to primaries. We decided to get a second opinion on this. And as we went to primaries, they did some testing, and they also did a surgery to take a piece of her muscle out to make sure the diagnosis was correct. And it was correct.
Hard.
But the difference was they said, here's what you can do. Oh, there's things we can do.
We're not lost
Total
in the
different.
world.
Right.
Oh.
And so they gave us, there wasn't a lot because these children die very young. And so we were doing this process of trying to figure out what we could do to try and help her live longer with physical therapy, and she'd blow into a tube to keep her lungs strong. It's really keeping those muscles strong.
Okay.
It was the key.
Well, so I've not experienced multiple or muscular dystrophy. I've not experienced that in my life. And so when you say that these children die young, do they teach us about that? What causes them to die young?
They atrophy. So because their body doesn't produce the protein it's supposed to do, they atrophy. Their body, you're not building the muscle, and it slowly just deteriorates till everything we use has muscle. So even her tongue would divot in a little. Yeah, that's how they would test her too, and it had little divots in it. So you just are weak, and as you get weak and you don't use your muscles, even standing helps your lungs stay strong and walking around.
Wow.
Right.
You just slowly deteriorate until your body can't function
The muscles
anymore.
in your legs and in your arm are more pronounced, where you can see whether or not they're working right. Or she was always in a wheelchair, so she couldn't stand. So that was the most obvious to see. But also all the muscles in your abdomen and your when you cough, when you breathe, all these muscles inside of you, they weren't very strong either. And so that became part of the problem. It's like we're not getting things coughed out of her lungs very well, so her lungs are starting to fill up with fluid, and that's not good.
That's scary.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can take place.
And that's how most of them pass away, is pneumonia.
Okay.
When a sickness happens, then they get the pneumonia. And to keep them clear, their lungs, so we always had machines with her to clear her. And she had 3 minutes time frame to clear her lungs. So she was with me 24/7 unless a nurse came in. So,
Wow.
yeah.
A lot of care that Heidi did the majority of when I was, well, we had to make some changes with life. I would be upstairs too, but Brittany needed so much care during the night that I was waking up a lot too to try and help in the process.
Okay.
But now I'm not getting my sleep, and I can't get to work fully functioning because I'm not sleeping well either. So eventually she says, then go downstairs and sleep so I can take care of this and you can go to work. And we start changing your life. It just goes, okay, we're going to have to do it this way now. But it ended up being it went to a point where Heidi wasn't getting her sleep either. And so if nobody's getting sleep, that's not going to work.
That's stressful.
That's going to have to come to a stop.
Yeah.
So we did get nurses that would come and help during the night. And so that was an interesting element as well.
Yeah, because, she had to be rotated eventually every hour and a half off of her left lung because it had collapsed eventually and was partial collapse, and then a collapse and partial collapse. And so the miracle is the other lung had grown to compensate, but you'd have to roll her to keep things moving, meaning that you always have to keep things moving so you can keep the airway clear. We all move in the middle of the night of our sleep. She doesn't. Every movement she makes is pretty much me. Mom, I need you to move my leg down. Mom, I need you. Yeah. So you would run in and help her. We learned to communicate. We had to figure things out too.
Yeah.
24/7, being with someone 24/7, we had to learn. She'd say, Mom, I need some space right now. And we'd learn that. And I'd say, okay, you get your space time. And, but a lot of changes, you'd get new changes that would happen. You would have things where you're settled in, you're start like, hey, we got our routine. Then she'd get sick and a new piece of equipment would come in and it was different and we'd have to adapt to that. And so you were constantly changing and you didn't know what was coming. And then we started just not worrying about what was coming because that just took too much time to think about when we had no answers for it.
Right.
So we started narrowing that down to sometimes hourly.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, we toss and turn in our sleep, but she wasn't able to, and she had to rely on you. Because I know there's sometimes maybe my neck is sore and all I have to do is move it, or reposition my body in some way. But to have to ask someone, I feel constantly. This need to move and I can't do it. Will you please help me?
So one time I was taught a good lesson and I really believe God was involved in it. Because it got worse and worse. Like, you need to move me here, you need to move me here. And it was constantly. And there was a time where I was getting like, oh my goodness, like every 2 minutes right now. But she was hurting, And it's basically I had this feeling, what if this was you? And I went, oh, true. I need to think that way. Because she wasn't doing anything to hurt me. It's just, it really does wear and tear on you. You become, constantly. And so I started thinking that way. So when she got a tickle, I was in there, like a tickle on her foot or something. I was in there within 3 seconds to scratch her foot. Because I thought, oh my goodness, I just reached down and scratched my foot.
Without
and
thinking.
She couldn't. So to me, I started responding that way.
Oh,
I thought
that had to have been a huge shift in
it did, but it helped me see it because you know how you don't know if people are in pain because you're not feeling it or you're not experiencing it. So it helped me start going there. If I had a tickle on my foot, I just reach down and tickle it. She can't, so quickly get in there. That's different. So you start planning, can I come in 2 minutes if it's something different? Yes, Mom. So we really started communicating. That was a big change for me that helped me help her and see it. So that was a really good learning time for me.
Now, when you had your first diagnosis of Brittany, share with me, who stepped into your life? Was it family? Was it friends? How did you really feel supported?
Probably a lot of family, and that was a great blessing to us. When you get news that's overwhelming, you go to where your strengths are. And so you go to your family, you go to your faith, you try and find some ways to deal with a load that seems you can't carry it. And so we go to our families a lot, to friends that were kind and appreciative. And so a lot of people like that would be very helpful. And it helped us too. And it was interesting because we also started to notice that as we were going through this, sometimes people, when they ask, how's Brittany doing, they don't really quite understand what it is they're asking.
Okay.
And so, and I don't blame them for that. They just don't understand.
Yes.
Is Brittany okay? No, she has an illness that's terminal, or that's constant, or what's another word for that? But it continues forever. And so
Chronic.
That's the word. Yeah, it's a chronic, and it is terminal. So no, she's not okay. At the moment, she might be okay.
Yeah.
But not always. But people would say, how'd you do? Well, we didn't sleep that much last night because of A, B, and C, or D, or whatever. Or if she gets a cold, that's a big issue that we have to deal with, constantly moving her around, helping her cough, and those kinds of things.
Helping her to cough. Wow. I didn't
that
even
was
think
probably
of
the
that.
biggest change in our caregiving, was the coughing.
Uh-huh.
We had to get a cough machine that would do it. That still required her help and our help. It was a three-person, three-entity process. There was a machine, and Brittany would still have to do the action of coughing, but then we would hold her so that she could get the air, this pressurized air in and immediate suction out. And so that required a lot of effort. And people were kind. We'd show them, this is how you do it, this is how the machine works. So she has to be coughed as often as she needs to. It could be 20 times a day, it could be 100 times a day. We don't know. Before she goes to bed, even if she's healthy, we still had to do that coughassist.
This routine that she had to go through to keep her.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the things that we take for granted. Absolutely amazing.
She needed a lot of care. And it was an interesting ride. We had good family around us. Then there was the financial side of things too, when you have to try and pay for all this stuff. And so when it first happened, again, I'm just coming out of college, and so we're just trying to figure out, okay, what job.
New kids in the world.
Right. And who's going to pay for all this? So there was a big piece there as well that Heidi was very strong with, and did a great job trying to help work things through. We knew the right people to kind of talk to get some advice that guided the process along.
Yeah, so another thing this was very difficult is nobody had answers.
Right.
Because she was an experiment. The longer she lived was the more experiment she became. There was a few lived that were type 3. It had walked, bared weight, and that, which is wonderful. And so everything we did, doctors would look at us, and we're all, what do we do?
Wow.
So we had
to
learn. But one thing I learned is God knew.
Yeah.
So I couldn't turn to my they helped us. Everyone helped us amazing. But with answers, nobody had the answers. And that was strange to go into that. So there was a time where Brittany was coughing to death. She was coughing to death. It was brutal. And she had a tube down her throat to breathe. And I had never used the coughassist because it's a mask that goes over her face like that. And I didn't know if I could put it over
the tube.
Sure. I've never done that before. And I'm looking, and they're in there. They're trying to keep her alive. Everyone has rushed in. And she's looking at me with this fear, and I'm all, what do I do? And I felt like coughassist came to my head, coughassist. And so I said, can you use the coughassist? And they looked at me and said, yes. And they didn't have it there because of a situation which they said we should have had it in the room. Not us, they should have. And they ran and grabbed it, cleared the airway. So I know that God had to help me through this. I don't know this stuff. I know nothing, and I'm having to be there at a very high, wonderful hospital. And I have to have answers too. I don't know. Right. So they looked at me, and she is the one who taught them, because what would happen, the coughassist goes over your face. And the pressure that goes in scared the children, so they never would use it. And they couldn't, most of them mentally couldn't relay their fear, but they would push and fight. Okay. Brittany's the one that taught primary children's respiratory therapists how to do it so they could use it on children when they wouldn't be fearful when they tried it on them. Because she was scared. When they first tried it, she's all, no, no. And she could say it. Yeah. And so she taught them. So I said, Brittany, what can we do? What can we do? Yeah. To try it where you're not so scared. And she taught me, just put it on my face and take it off. So we did that. And then we put it on. She goes, barely turn it on. So we barely turn it on. She felt, she goes, oh, that's no problem. Turn it up a little more. So we turned it up a little more. And within 10 to 15 minutes, she was full blown into using it at the rate she needed. You have pressures that you need. And it was amazing to watch because she taught them because she could tell them. And so she's really has paved this little way for the kids now, you know, and there's many other things she did to pave the way to help them. And it will continue. These kids will pave the way because they're living longer. Yes. It's really neat. It's really neat.
With facilities and equipment that helps them to have a little more comfort.
Yeah, and she also actually, she was asked a question. She said we had this amazing neurologist, Dr. Swoboda, and her assistant were amazing and the best in the world, that had come to primary children's when she was 8. So we were able to work with them. They were outstanding. And they asked her, we want to try some stuff, but we need you to volunteer to try it, but it will not help you. If it's going to help anyone, it's going to help the kids in the future. And she said, I'll do it. And some of it involves some shocking, which not to a point where she, you know, they're not going to, but it hurts a little. And she said, I'll do it. I'll do it for the kids. And now that medication and some of the stuff they did is being used in helping the kids. So it's amazing to watch this, you know, you think, how can they serve us? How can they? Oh, they can. It's amazing what these kids and those with disabilities will do. It blows my mind of their strength and what they teach us. But so now it is, it's that medication is helping these kids, and I'm seeing them. I'm like, this is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So see how it can work. I love that. I love how, and people, the money that had to go into it to do it. There really is a lot of support that people have no idea that's out there.
And that Brittany had a big hand in doing that because of her ability to be able to speak and be able to communicate. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really so beautiful.
That was a big part of it. That was the interesting and sometimes difficult pieces, because physically she was unable to do some things, and so she'd have to ask for help all the time. But at least she could. She could verbalize it and say something to us, where we could react and handle it however we needed to. But yeah, there's others that are even more difficult when they can't verbalize what their feelings or what they need at that time. That's a tough thing to go through.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some amazing things that she did was she allowed herself to be that instrument of learning. What are some other amazing things that she did?
Can I share one?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm really grateful for my dad because he worked with a lot of people with disabilities, which helped prepare me. And
really helped the family.
He said, don't feed into her disability. Feed into finding a way to solve the problem with a disability. Okay. So, for instance, Mom, I want to do this. You can't do it like I want to be a cheerleader. Well, okay.
She said she wants to be a cheerleader.
Yeah, she wanted to be a cheerleader. And so I'm all, okay. And so I turn to her and say, because you know how cheerleaders are, right? How are you going to go try and be a cheerleader? Well, I'm going to call him, and I'm going to go try out, and I'm going to learn the cheer. And so she went, and she wanted to try out, but due to safety issues, they couldn't put her on there. But then the girls fought for it, and she became a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
She became a cheerleader.
And the church did a movie on her. It's amazing.
That's great.
And so that's the whole thing is this sounds kind of crazy, but I won't play into the victim card of the disability because I knew she was capable of finding a way that I couldn't see to accomplish it.
And it's so empowering.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, if my daughter came to me and she's in a wheelchair and she says, I want to be a cheerleader, I think it would be so easy for me to go into a, honey, do you know what you're asking? Let's be realistic here. But you didn't.
Yeah. She found a way. And we even did, this is one of our favorite stories. She did a water slide. Mm-hmm. It was great. So you got to understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Water in her lungs, not a good idea, right?
No.
Getting under a pool,
Dangerous.
not a good idea.
Dangerous.
Okay.
So this was hard because probably some people go, what were you thinking? But I looked at her and I knew it. She goes, I'm going to experience this, Mom. I said, okay. So we had it all planned out. People at the bottom, me at the top. I have worked with her underwater before where she could hold her breath for a little bit. But when you're going fast, it's different. And I put her on me. And I'm like, here we go.
Well, I remember she had her. We went to the top of the stairs. She got down at the beginning of the pool. We laid her on there so we could go. And that was one of my brothers that did that. I was at the bottom of the pool ready to catch.
Okay.
So when they came out, and she...
Yeah.
Brittany, when you hit the bottom, hold your breath. You're going to go underwater for a minute, but Dad's there. I'm going to grab you. We're going to be okay.
We were going... I never knew how fast a water slide was until I got her because we were going faster than I had ever gone.
Oh.
It was faster. I'd been down that slide before, but it was faster. I said, we are going to pass them and go under. So get ready. And then I just held onto her. You should have seen me. When I was done, I was exhausted. And then she went under, and I just held on, and I just pushed her up and waited till they grabbed her. So her head was above water, tilted. Yep. And then, it was so exciting.
Gosh.
And she goes, let's do it again. I said, never again. Never again. I said, but you did it.
We did it.
Bucket list,
check. But it was so neat to see her love it, you know, and she just kept doing everything. She was Miss Hot Wheels.
Joy.
Yeah, she was Miss Hot Wheels Utah. She goes, I'm going to go try out.
Miss Hot Wheels Utah.
And she'd go speak. She spoke to many groups. Many groups on how to face life and how to deal with things.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually something that I really want to dive into is when she had those hard times, how did you experience that together in a way that helped her through that? Because it sounds like she's a joyful, dynamic, optimistic young lady, but I'm sure that there were some hard times, right?
Yeah. Did you want me to?
Go ahead, you bet.
So, there was a time.
Sometimes they tell me about it afterwards. We're going to go do this thing. Okay, I guess we're going to do this. So, go ahead.
So, and real quickly before we go to that question, if that's okay. One thing I learned with Brittany, and I make sure I tell people this, is when Brittany decided to do it, that made me realize that was my job to get her there. So as her mother, my part, because she had to solve it, right?
Yeah.
I had to be with her every 3 minutes. She needed to be in some kind of care. I had to get her to those destinations. Mom, I want to go to a movie tonight. Okay, let's go. So she'd go with a friend, and I'd sit in the front, and she'd be in the back, and she could call me and say, I'm coughing, come get me. I go cough her, come back, and I go to the front. So she could still have that freedom.
Wow.
But I had to figure that out too, because that's my life now, is getting her where she wanted to go and everything. So I just wanted to bring that up, that it's important. It's really important. So.
She'd bring ideas and say, what about, can we do this? And I'd like to try this. And we would try and help facilitate that the best that we can, but if we had to bring more people into the situation, then we would say, okay, how about this? And we talked a lot about it, and it's sometimes easy, sometimes difficult, and good dialogue between us that eventually led to a good dialogue I had with her towards the end. But But Heidi deserves a ton of credit and a lot of effort that she put into to help her be a cheerleader, to go to the Miss Hot Wheels pageant, and to do these kinds of things, to go on the speaking assignments at various state conferences or whatever that she would go to. She wanted to do it. Heidi was on board. We were both on board, but Heidi was the front person there to help her know what we're going to do, and we would all try and accomplish it together. That is a wonderful thing, and it's not always easy because we're not always smiling about everything either. Sometimes it's rough and it's tough, and you get tired, and so it's, as a family, you've got to work this together so that we understand how we're going to make all this work.
Right.
It can't just be, I'm going to ask forever, and the parent is just going to say yes, yes, yes forever.
Okay.
You'll lose yourself in the process.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you have other children.
This is a good point.
Yes. So one of our biggest goals was to make sure Ashley, my other daughter, had as much of a normal and experience in her life as she could. That I never expected Ashley to do my job. If she chose to go help Brittany, she could.
Wow.
And she did. She would go get the coughassist. She needs to cough, Mom. And
she learned how to do it.
As a young, I couldn't believe it because I'm all, oh, wow. I mean, she did, but I never expected her to do that because we did need help. You help each other in a family, which is important. It's if she felt like she had to do it all the time to take care of her, this is different. So I tried to really give her the best I could options. If she had to play, one of us would go, or we'd all go if we could, but if Britt was sick, one of us would go.
Okay.
I really wanted her to go to church, so I called a neighbor if I had to stay home with Brittany to make sure that she could get to church and be with it. So Ashley is she will talk to everybody. She loves people, and she knows people are very important in her life, and they need her in their life, she says. That it's a two-way street.
Her. So like
Brittany, Ashley, see, you still goof them up. Ashley plays a big role in the family, and her part is Ashley is her, and Ashley has her needs, and Ashley can give, and so we really had to make sure that we focused on that because you could easily have it just about Britt.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can see in just raising my own children, sometimes the demands, let's say, were put on one child over the others. It was easy to just give that full focus right there. And later you realize, oh, wait a minute, there's other children here.
Yeah.
How do you handle and juggle all of that?
Right.
That's the test, yeah.
But I love that you embrace the fact that you gave them both individual attention. You recognize you're part of this family.
Yeah, that was the intent. That we do the best we can as parents,
right?
Obviously.
Yeah.
But I know we talked about that too. We didn't want someday Ashley to come to us and say, everything I do is for Brittany, what about me? Gratefully, it worked out well. Ashley was able to do some things that she enjoys, and she loves plays, and so she's been involved in the theater for a long time, and she enjoyed that. So.
Well, and I think that I'm picking up from you as parents that you gave them the way to be able to dream. You supported them in their passions, and that's huge. That's powerful.
That was I appreciate that. Yeah, they wanted to do something, and it was different than just, hey, I'm going to go with my friends and go do something. Well, that's fine, but for us, I want to go to a movie. Okay, that means
how do we coordinate?
How do we do with this?
With equipment.
You're going to go
with making sure Ashley was okay. If Doug had to go to bed early, or
whatever was going on.
Wow.
Everything was pre-planned to a point. You know what I mean? Like if I could do a movie, I had to arrange it. Okay, can you go to this time instead of this time, instead of earlier, maybe a little later?
Yeah. Can you give me a step-by-step of preparing your daughter to go to the movie? What was that like?
Okay, so
Go ahead.
If she just, all of a sudden, I want to go to the movie, I knew immediately, okay, where is Doug going to be? Where is Ashley going to be? Do we have, what time, what theater? What am I doing? So everyone's schedule comes into play.
Okay.
And everything they're doing comes into play. And we respect everybody's scheduled to a point, because we do know that we have to adjust to a point.
Yeah.
So with that one, if they wanted to go to the 7 o'clock film, we asked her friends, can we go to the 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock filming? That's the chances of Ashley getting ready for bed and Doug being home, done with his work, maybe his calling, and can be home.
Okay.
And then I can go and be there. So, but you also have to plan treatments. You have to plan food. You have to make sure you have everything with you. And this sounds kind of silly, but you always had gas in the vehicle, because you only could take her in one vehicle. I mean, and that her chair's ready to go. It's just so funny. But at the same time, it's just, you get really good at it.
Yeah.
You get really good.
But there was a lot, you're right, there was a lot of equipment that we had to take. And so she had a lot of treatments. She later on, she got her food through a G-tube.
Oh.
And so there was a schedule there too.
Oh my.
And so a schedule for when she needed to use the restroom, when she needed to eat, all those kinds of things had to be mapped out as well.
And then you had your nebulizer treatments, and you had your vest, which shook on her to help loosen secretions. And then you did the coughassist, so that could be like a 45-minute process.
Wow.
So, but you had those 3 to 4 times a day,
Okay.
like every 4 hours. That she had to do that treatment. So you also have to plan that into the
load it all in the van
to the movie,
Mm-hmm.
because the movie starts here, ends here. But what if she wants to go get a little something afterwards? So that's why the coughassist would go with us. So
equipment, we had to load everything into the van. Lots of equipment, heavy equipment. It just had to go everywhere.
Yeah,
that was just part of the process.
That was part of it.
And if we had to, we used it wherever we could. Electricity and somewhere to lay her down.
So I have a question about schooling then. Can you take me on a journey of what it was like to get her to school? Did she have someone come to the home? Did she actually go to the school?
Yeah, so that was actually something we created.
Yeah.
They'd never done it before. And now another girl has just graduated after going through that process, because we had paved the way.
Really?
So, because they looked at us and went, we don't know what to do, because she doesn't go to the special needs class.
Okay.
And so I said, well, she has to have someone with her the whole time. Well, can't they help someone out? I said, no, because if she needs her pencil, if she needs the book moved, it's every little detail. So we sat there and explained it. They thought, and at first we tried to figure it out, but she had an assistant that would come, that learned the equipment, and we had to have a room that she could use the restroom. We had to have a room where you could lay her down to cough. She had to lay down to cough.
Oh my.
So we'd send special stuff where they could lay her down, set up the equipment quickly. And problem was, if it's a big school, could she get there fast enough to clear the airway?
Yeah.
But we had somebody, so we had that all set up, ready to go. And especially with the fire, how do you get her down? If you can't, you'd have to lift her. I mean, everything. It's pretty exciting though.
So we took her to school every day with our van and lift. Her wheelchair going to the van, lift it down into the school she goes. But she has an assistant that was with her the whole time, because that's just the nature of what we had to do.
Yeah.
Because the buses couldn't take her, because she had to clear her airway. And they didn't have an inverter or something to plug in to clear airway within 3 minutes. So we drove.
Wow.
That's the difference, yeah.
So when you have an assistant, did you have some assistants that were better than others? Did you try to find people that connected with her?
Absolutely. I'll let you finish on this. I'll just start it, because we had some, they were all good nurses and good assistants. Well, we had 1 or 2 that were assistants at the school, but then we had some great nurses too that ended up becoming friends of ours at our home that would help us at night too, because we had nurses at night, every night. For 10 to 15 years, we had a nurse that was awake all night long to take care of Brittany's needs. And so we got used to having someone else in the house all the time. And that's a big life change. And so when someone that's not family is awake all night long, you're trusting your house to their care while you're asleep. And so we had to go through that process as well, but we had some really particularly good ones.
And they became family.
Oh, they did.
They really did. Their kids, everything, we just loved them.
How can they not?
I mean, yeah.
When you're that much involved.
When you serve.
Yeah. One of them named their daughter with Brittany, and so it's so cute, middle name. So I love it. I absolutely love it. But they are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. And we needed them extremely. So
you mentioned something that there was a movie made about your daughter.
There was.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it available for us to see?
It is.
What's the title of it?
It's
It's on YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay.
Example of the Believers.
Yeah.
Example
They've changed it a couple
of the
times. So now
Believers.
it's Charity. Example of the Believers. They added charity in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And the church did a thing about her when she was a cheerleader, and they put all these different pictures and videos in there and the whole thing to it.
I just love that she lived her life of being a cheerleader.
Yeah, she did.
And she was good. She had
She
all of
learned
it
them.
memorized before the other girls.
She
on
knew
the
how to
cheers,
move her
the
arms
hands, the
to
words.
to the
cute.
cheer. It wasn't just nothing. She learned.
She worked it.
She knew how to do it.
Again, not giving in to that disability.
Yeah.
Right.
It was impressive.
She knew it by rhythm. I mean, she knew how to do what she was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot. Most of what she could do, she couldn't do much with her legs, obviously, but she knew it on rhythm. She knew when to put her hands out and
She'd decorate her wheelchair and twist
spin
around.
on the
and-
basketball court. And
yeah,
yeah.
that's really cute.
Was she for a lack of friends then?
Oh, she was good. They just were so great with her and loved her and invited her to things. It was
That's
good.
so amazing.
She did miss a lot of school
That
with her sicknesses and the difficulty there.
Yeah.
So the aide would come over and help her teach a little bit, which they allowed, which was really nice. So she could learn in the
good.
home a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, I try and teach her at home too. So, yeah.
She had good friends. I will say, not that a lack of friends. When she was growing up with this illness, with this disability, sometimes it was hard for other kids in her age group to know what to do with it.
Sure.
So that was not necessarily a lack of friends, but they weren't necessarily bouncing around like perhaps in other houses because they were used to that. The cheerleaders are wonderful, and they would come to the house and be a part of what we were doing, which was a nice thing. But there were times too where she would have to try and explain this is what's going on. Some kids wouldn't know what to do with that. And so because they didn't know what to do, they would stand off.
They thought they would
back
catch
away.
it.
Some even when she was
They
little,
thought they
thought
would
they
catch the
it,
disease
which
or
That is
whatever it was.
so
So I would go
interesting.
in at the beginning of the year
Yeah.
and talk to them. And then they'd all come up and touch all they need to know is the basics. And then they're up there touching the wheelchair. Oh, the scarce thing, and
Yeah.
we had
then
to
they
tell
wanted it. Can I have one of those?
Yeah.
Drive it around.
Driving around.
Oh yeah, I remember wanting to have a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And having the freedom of going somewhere
Driving
with
around.
wheels.
Who
Like
wouldn't on
that's
that?
so exciting.
And they don't understand that she's in the wheelchair. She can't just stand up and walk around. They don't understand that. They think it's awesome. So they thought that was really cool. Yeah. But you did mention something that I think is really important. You had mentioned that there's tough times. And there are many tough times. And there's many tough times. And how do you get through it? How do you deal with it? I have a couple examples of that. One of them is there was one night where she needed me probably about every 15 minutes to roll her. When she's sick, it's different. It's not every hour and a half. It's pretty constant.
Okay.
And it goes for days. And that's okay, And so
Weeks.
one time I got up and I wasn't, just rolling her and stuff. She goes, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I said, don't apologize. She goes, this has to be hard on you and it makes me mad. And I said, what can you get mad at? I said, I'm not mad at you. I am here for you. You're here for me. So what can we do about that? And I said, how about you just get mad at the disease once in a while? Just yell at the disease.
Oh my goodness.
Say, just yell at it and say, I'm sick of you today, or something, so she could vent the pain. Because she hurt all the time, but nobody knew that. And she'd get sick for months. And that constant care. And she's not sleeping either. It's not just me. This is her whole life. And so she would get mad at it some days and say, I don't want to do you today, and she'd yell things. And I said, good, just release it. You've got to be able to do something.
Oh, Heidi, that is so powerful.
And so that helped her release it. And she goes, this is annoying. And
Good.
And then another one was a time, I shared this one a lot because we went in just for a normal checkup with her. And when we went in, they usually have a doctor and always somebody that's learning because these kids you want to learn on. So we didn't mind that. We were used to it.
Okay.
And we love the doctors. But sometimes they forget what they're saying. Okay? And I'll show you why. So when they were there, they were telling her, this assistant. They were saying, do you see the deformity and how ugly that makes that look and how her big head? And so when they're talking like that, and I look over and my daughter's crying. She was fine, and now she's crying. And I knew that just wasn't right. I understand you have to say things, but I knew that was not right. So I asked them if they'd step out for a minute, and I looked at her and I said, Brittany, what happened? This is not right. You were totally fine. What happened? She said, am I this ugly? Do I look that bad? I said, no, you're beautiful. I said, don't let them control you. Don't. And I said, you're going to go through some difficulty, but you got to find a way. I said, what is it that can pull you out of that? And she said to me, Mom, I want to go see Tickles, her dog, because he made her happy. And then she said, can we go watch this movie when we get home? Can we go do this? And we started laughing so hard. And we realized that's how we can control the situation. We understand we're going to hear bad things and bad news. We understand there's going to be things that constantly do this. Yeah. We have to find a way that we can be okay. And every time she went to the hospital, Robin Williams, every time, Mom, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one. They were all Robin Williams
movies
every time. And we'd sit there and we'd laugh, and when she'd laugh in the hospital, I'm like, you're going to die, because she couldn't have air, and so she'd set off the alarms, and they were running because she's laughing, and she would squirt the nurses with a little water, and they loved her, and that's how she could lift her spirit. That's how I was able to lift my spirit. And so when she was stuck in her home for 2 or 3 months sick, we would change the atmosphere with decorations. So decorations in our home are big, even today. And even to her grave, we'll take a sweet little decoration every holiday because she could change it. It changes. You've got to keep living. If you don't have a purpose, you're going to fall pretty fast. And her purpose, she knew there was to laugh and there was more. That this wasn't it. This was not the only life she'd be living. That gave her hope. She knew that one day she'd be free of it. And we had this beautiful portrait done. Because when she was little, she looked at me and she said, because we had talked about death as a little 4 or 5-year-old. She looked at me and she said, when am I going to die? You don't usually have that conversation. And
when
I'm
all,
4 okay.
5 years old.
Yeah. So I said, we don't know. We don't know. So
Which is truth.
Yeah. So let's just keep moving forward and stuff. And I said, and one day you'll get there and you'll love it. And then she turned to me and she goes, what if I get lost on my way to heaven? And I never thought that before.
What if I can't find it?
And I said, no, that's not how it's going to be. It's not. You will always have someone with you, whether it's here or there. You will have someone with you. And when you get there, the Savior will kneel because she's little. And he'll put his arms out so you can run to him. And your dress will be waving, your wheelchair will be left behind, and your hair will be waving. And I went trying to describe it to her, and she goes, Mom, I can't see it. Mm-hmm. And so we had talked to a sweet lady, Jean Keaton, who did the artwork for her. And she did it for her. And it is the most beautiful portrait. It is beautiful. And Brittany could see it. And she goes, Mom, look.
I can visualize it.
And she could see herself standing for the first time in that portrait. You got to realize she's never seen herself stand.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her stand. And that's the amazing part I thought of. When she passed away, I will never be carrying her again. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of sad, but very happy too. Because when she left, I missed the clicking of her wheelchair. You miss the sound. Everyone plays a part in this world. And when I came in, I realized after she had passed, that's the first time in her whole life, I walked in with my arms empty. No equipment, no Brittany, nothing. I have never walked in with empty arms, ever. And I could see her chair where she was before, and then I could see her little toothbrush, and then I could see her bed. She had her place in our family.
Yeah.
She was there. And we all are that way. If my Ashley left, she has a place, and she's gone right now on a mission, and her stuff's there. She has a place. Your worth is there. Every one of us leave a mark. It's there. And it made me realize how much she's worth, how much God really sees us. He really does. I mean, each one of us play a part, and I love that. I love that, because if any one of us leaves, and I see it now, and I see it more and more, and it makes me more grateful for them more than ever before. And I think that's one thing I had to appreciate and accept, and realize and see it through his eyes just a teeny bit, So
to see it through his eyes.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the different circumstances and situations that you have brilliantly taken on. I don't know what I would have done if my daughter started crying because of the words that were said by a medical professional. I certainly would not have taken in as gracefully as you did. I love that you have taken on this natural circumstances, but you're not bitter about it in any way, and instead you empower her with the ability to see the joy, to see the blessings.
And she changed me. That's one thing I am so grateful for, is as hard as it was, and the things she went through, I wouldn't wish on people, but I know this is hard to say. I'm so grateful, because I am a changed person completely. I've never been so humbled in my life. God and I have a relationship I never knew could get that close. Never. And I am so grateful that I was able to be who I am now. I would not be like this. And she taught me how to do that. And her patience and willing to get through this, Yeah. And so even with her gone now, I still always think of that. When someone comes in, I think of who they are. What can I do to help them today? Some are upset. That's fine. I'm not going to take it personal. Something's going on. I'm just so grateful for what I have learned, because now I can see where I wouldn't have ever seen before.
Yeah.
And I can actually see people that have these special needs kids. I can see it in their eyes if there's a hard day without them even telling me. And I can react to it. Doesn't mean always, but I can, notice it. And I'm so grateful for it. It just has changed my life completely.
And Doug, how has that changed your life?
Two things go through my head when I think about it. I appreciate that I was able to talk to her when she was probably 6 months before she passed away. We didn't know that, but I was able to talk to her when she was frustrated, and I was a little frustrated because this becomes a hard thing that never seems to go away. And I wasn't upset by that, but I was still feeling the weight of that.
Sure.
So we had a moment where we talked, and I was like, I'm going to talk to you as a person, not just a dad to daughter talk, but I want to talk to you as a person.
Oh.
And so that was it was going to come out of me anyway.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, Brittany, she's 21 at the time. I says, I'm going to talk with you, tell you how we feel about things and how I'm doing with things. And there was a moment there where I was, and it'll seem kind of hard, but my thoughts were, don't ask one more thing of me, which sounds really terse and hard. I don't think I said those words, but that was that moment of like, don't ask me to move your foot, don't ask me to turn this around or move this or change the, at the moment I couldn't handle another question, another request or demand or whatever.
Wow.
So in that dialogue, though, I was able to say, this is not easy for any of us. It's not easy for me to. And then she could say, and it's not easy for me to either. And like when she told Heidi that night, she says, oh, I'm sorry. She goes, it's hard for me to have to ask for everything. Everything. If my foot itches, someone else has got to take care of that. If I need to cough, someone's got to take care of that. And so I could talk to her as a person, and there were tears for both of us saying, this is not easy. This is what we're kind of trying to go through. But I appreciated the back and forth between two, at the time, adults now talking about this situation. The other thing that I really wanted to point out, one of the blessings that Brittany brought to me, to our family, but to me particularly, from experiences that we've had with her, with all the vacations that we've been able to do, as difficult and wonderful and difficult as they were, they took a lot of energy.
Yeah.
We were able to see, like we talked about the nurses that we had, we were able to see the best side of countless people. Mm-hmm. That is a huge blessing. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that blessing can come any other way. But we saw the best side of just countless people. Whether they know it or not, we saw it. And they go, that is an amazing blessing that Brittany gave to us.
I love that. And thank you for sharing, both of you. Thank you for sharing those experiences with me. So I have a family that I'm aware of that they're in a similar situation with a daughter that is suffering with muscular dystrophy. My question for you is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to someone who's going through that right now?
Keep breathing. A lot of faith, keep breathing. I don't know if there's a lot of answers of this is how you can fix this problem, this is how you can fix this problem. There are some of those, I suppose. But you still got to keep going through your life.
Yeah. And
sometimes even when you're given the right answer, you're not in the mood to hear it. It's like, don't tell me anymore. You know, there's still those moments of whatever. It's easy for us to say on this side now because we've been through what we've been through. I've heard it my whole life. You've heard it your whole life. Everyone's heard it. It's greener over. It's going to be okay. God's involved, and I believe that too. We both do. Our families do. God's involved, and this is all going to be where it needs to be. And even sometimes that gets frustrating. It's like, yeah, I know that, but at this moment,
I don't want to hear it.
Right now, I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
It really does get better. And like I said, when I saw the best side of a lot of people, that took me years to realize that. It's like, oh my goodness, the blessings are still coming because now I'm seeing them. Where at the moment when you're in the middle of the fire,
yes,
you're not seeing that. You're just breathing.
Understood.
So just breathe and get through whatever you're doing, but realize we're just another testimony that there's benefit.
I love how raw you two have been with recognizing this is not, it's not all deep, dark, heavy. It's not all joyful, happy miracles, right? But you've given yourself permission and others to recognize that this is hard.
Yeah.
This sucks.
It does.
Yeah. I don't like this.
I don't want to
when
do
you're
this
first,
right now.
when they're first diagnosed, you go through something. When something bad happens again, it's like all these emotions come back. Yeah. It is so normal because it's all new. Now you got to figure this one out. And it's okay to have those emotions. If you have to be here, like you said, with breathing, just breathe then for a second. Don't think of anything else, just breathe. Then see if you can go to here. Then see if you can go to here. Because it's going to come back again. You hear things left and right, and a new problem resolved. How am I going to solve this? And all this heaviness comes. We all go through that with the difficulty. Sometimes you just got to pull it here and just stop and let everything go, and then see what you can take, and then add to it if you can. If you can't, go back to here again, and then keep adding, because it will keep coming. New things will come up, and you have to solve that. You're not expected to solve it immediately. That's what I've learned. It will come. Right now, you have to breathe. First step.
In a word, I would say, any advice, in a word, it takes courage. It just takes courage. And your courage is going to get stronger because these things are not easy. So courage is what I would say.
Yeah. How has this been taxing on your marriage at times?
Sorry, sweet.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It is.
It is.
We don't know what a marriage is with anything different. Does that make sense?
First 23 years of our marriage was that kind of a thing, and so
Yeah.
it does.
You were in survive mode.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Yeah, you're that way a lot. And good people. I mean, I've talked with family, and they, are you okay? Because people that are marriages that have children with disabilities, there's a lot of stress put on the marriage, and so is that going to be okay? And I says, I think we are. Occasionally, I would talk.
I mean,
to
marriage in
are we
itself
okay?
can
But
be
you
a
also
trial.
have-
Marriage in itself is a hard thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not going out on dates.
This is true.
It's not like you're up and leaving. So our dates were movie and bring in some food. Hopefully,
Go
if we
get
could
some
afford
food.
it.
Yeah, bring it back. Here's your hamburger, whatever.
But that
the
was our
movie,
dates,
and
and we'd talk. Him and I would talk all the time.
Yeah, we talk.
But we just had to. You just had to figure it out. I know that's crazy. We're not marriage therapists, so we don't know. But
I mean, you're not therapists, but
yeah, exactly. We got some experience.
I mean, we had to communicate it, and there was times it was tough. And in an emotional moment when something was new, it's just like anything else. It gets tense between us two.
Sure.
So we just need to take that time away from each other. But we're in the same house. We're not going anywhere.
Can't go far.
And we had to figure it out because nothing else was an option.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because we loved each other, so we better figure it out. So then there was real hard times. There was some times you go down. I'm not loving you tonight, I love you, but
I respect you that you're breathing.
yes, I respect you. But it's because everyone's in an emotional state at that time. So we just had to find steps, just like we did. Breathe.
Just
Same
breathe.
with everything.
Let yourself laugh. Brittany had to laugh about her situation, and she found a way to laugh about it. We laughed about ours. I remember years ago I asked her, I don't know why I asked this, but I said, are we okay? I think we're okay. Are we okay? And she laughingly just says, she goes, you're not bugging me. I mean, you bug me, but you're not bugging me.
And then we laughed.
So I said, okay, so I bugged you, but I'm not bugging you. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
So you just find a way.
You have to laugh. Either you laugh or you cry. You might as well laugh. So.
Just laugh. Yeah. We had many of those. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I love the union that is between the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
The friendship that is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Even through those tough times, you recognize that your relationship counts.
Mm-hmm.
You made it happen. Now I would love for, if you're open to it, share with me about Brittany's passing.
Okay, so I'll start with that. There was one day that, now every time we go to the hospital with Brittany, it was very common, and we'd come home. It was very common that we would go because she'd get sick, very, very sick.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular day, she woke up and she goes, my lungs are different. Like, what? She goes, it feels like they're rubbing. And I had never heard this before. And I'm all, rubbing? He goes, yeah, it feels like it's just rubbing back and forth. And I said, that's strange. And so we have to, when she gets sick, she can be within 4 hours in a really bad state. Mm-hmm. So we have to hurry and get into the Instacare because we have to try and avoid the hospitals. We have to try and avoid because of sicknesses.
Oh.
So we went to the Instacare.
Other people's sicknesses.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To add on top of what she's caught.
Mm-hmm.
So the Instacare actually was really great. They kind of know us now. They have to pre-wipe the room. We stay in the van, then we go in. So we went in. They do a test on her because we cannot just give her antibiotics because she will build up immunity against them. So we have to see if it's a viral or bacterial. And it was viral. So we were just fighting a little viral thing. And as we started to leave, as soon as we pulled, like she came out of the building, she looked at me and said, I've got to go to the hospital right now. So I'm all, whoa, okay. And so I load her in the van, and ambulances can't take us. They don't have the equipment to take her. So I have the inverter on. I've strapped her in, laying down and I had to get her to the hospital quickly, and it's 20 to 30-minute drive.
Oh.
So I'm getting her to the hospital, and we get her in there, and we get her settled in, and
You're praying all the way there,
yes,
I'm
yep,
sure.
helping her through. Just you turn into a different situation. You immediately are just focused. Stay, like, how I told you to go here, I had to just focus. Stay calm because she needs me calm, and try and deal with the situation, because when I pull in, we're going to a new hospital for the first time because now she's too old to go to primaries. So when we pull in, they do not know what they're dealing with. They don't even have the equipment needed. Our equipment's going to be needed. So I have to figure out what we're going to be doing. And when I run in, I call them. I'm coming, and I'm dropping this lift. I pull in where the ambulance goes in, and I said, I'm coming in. There needs to be a room ready, and this is what you need to do. I'm telling them this. It's the craziest thing. And then I run in, take my keys with me, but the van's open. And I run in to get her stable. And I get in there and I say, show me a room. Just trust me. Just show me a room. You have to be pretty straightforward.
Wow.
And then they get me in there and I just start hooking her up as fast as I can because I have to run back and forth and get the equipment. And then I'm teaching them as we're going, this is what you have to do, this we have to do, try and do, because they have their knowledge. They're really smart. It's just, this is just different situations. So I have to explain, this is what we use. What is that equipment? And I'm, and talking them through it.
Teaching and trying to
Yes. You're just trying to get in a situation quickly.
Time.
So we got her stable, started improving the next few days. And so, which was great. That's good. We're like, wow, she's doing really good on this. And then all of a sudden during the night, were you there or was it me?
I was there the day before. I think this was the day that you were there.
Okay. All of a sudden she woke up in this pain that was out of control. And it was so painful that it kept knocking her out because she can't have a lot of pain meds because it affects her lungs. And so this pain was just so tight and severe, and then she just passed out.
Oh.
And so I just hold her and just hold her. It was so much pain, so much pain. It's hard to watch that. It's just horrible. And so we're talking to primaries on the phone so they can try and teach them, and they don't know what's going on. I'm trying to tell them. And they're like, well, maybe we can try this. Well, the pain is getting so bad, and you never can bring in your kid when under a certain age because they don't allow it because sicknesses spread, right? So the hospital doesn't allow him in. I never let Ashley in.
Okay.
And I had to go home and shower. I'm like, oh my gosh. Go home and shower, make sure Ashley knows because she had an event. So here we are, still dealing with this.
Right.
And Ashley has an event. So see how quickly you're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And it's a really important event for her. And so I said, I'm going to take her. You come and be with Brittany. And it's not good, but I'm going to go be with Ashley. And so we went with Ashley, and she goes, Mom, can I just go? I said, sure. I've never done that. I said, sure, let's go. So she had everyone around the neighborhood quickly sign a poster board, and she had made her this little frame. I used to take stuff to her. And they went in, and they sat and chatted. And Britt was hurting, but Britt will do things. She will make sure you're okay. So she's making sure Ashley's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
And they let us in. They always questioned it. And she got right in. Like, I didn't even think. We just walked in. She starts talking. They're laughing.
Oh.
Britt's like, it's all good, Ashley. It's all good. And then Britt would pass out, and then she'd come back, and Ashley's showing her the cute things, and they went home. And then that night, I'm like, I can't even comfort her. I don't know what to do. She's in pain. This pain was so severe. And they were saying we could do all this, and no, primary's like, no, that's not what you do. And then my mom had come up, and Doug was at work, and Ashley was with the neighbors. No, she went home. Okay, Ashley's in junior high, so she just crossed the street and went home. And all of a sudden, Brittany had been dry heaving constantly. And all of a sudden, she stopped, and it caught my attention because it was different. And I said, oh my gosh, are you okay? And she says, no, something is severely wrong. So I knew this is it, I think. And I ran out. Another miracle was a nurse that used to be with her we hadn't seen her in like 15 years, and she was there working that night, and I had seen her 2 hours earlier, and just like, oh my goodness, this is so great. and she was helping the 2 rooms by us.
Uh-huh.
And I felt bad because we have our nurse that we don't know well, but we know her. And I run out because I knew she knew me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think Brittany's dying. I need to get the doctor. Do you know who the doctor was? Her family practitioner that knew us.
Oh, wow.
And he had not gone home. He always went home early, and he had not gone home from the hospital. And he comes up, and he knows Brittany. And he runs in, and it was horrific, like the things that were happening to her. And they were trying to x-ray her, and she's just, oh my gosh, the pain. And I just kept holding on to her. And
you went and talked to him outside. Is that when you asked the doctor?
Well, not yet. So
ahead.
let's see. Then he was outside, and he came in because the results came back.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned to me, and he said, just so you know, her lungs are full. They're completely full of fluid. And her levels are bad. And he says, we can do the trach. That's our only option we can do. And I thought, okay, this is not my decision. So I turned to Brittany.
She's 21 at the time.
As I turned to her, I looked at her, and I knew that she had to make this choice. And I said, we either do a trach, and it probably won't work, or you go home. She goes, I may go home. And I knew my job was to help her get home. I needed to help her through that. And so, as I held her arm and things, I knew I said, what do you want to do? Because I knew that nobody could get there in time. It was going so quickly. All this had happened so quickly. And she goes, I want to call everybody. Okay. This was her again, doing her thing. So, Mom, get ready. And she just started naming people. And so she called Doug and talked to her. The problem is, I have a daughter at home, alone. How do I tell her? And so I called the sweet neighbor, and I said, would you please go over and tell Ashley that Brittany's passing? We need to get her on the phone. And so she went in and talked to Ashley. So here's my other sweet little girl that I can't be with, that's being told this. And so she talked to Doug on the phone, and she talked to Ashley on the phone. And Doug will tell his part of the story about the car.
Yeah, Heidi called me when I was at work and basically just said, this is different. You need to come back to the hospital as quickly as you can. So I just told my people at work, I said, I'm going to go. I honestly don't know when I'm coming back, so we're just going to see what happens here. So I was driving home, and Brittany called me on my cell phone. And that's where she said her goodbyes to me, was on the cell phone while I'm driving home.
Oh, Doug. Wow.
Yeah. I said to her, you don't know what to say. At this point, you're not sure what to say anymore. Brittany, I love you. I'm coming now. I'm going to go pick up Ashley, and then I'll get up there as fast as I can to the hospital. But I said, if heaven is calling and it's time to go, don't wait for me. You just go. So, and then you just tell them you love them over and over and over again. And then you say your goodbyes. Gratefully for me, I was able to race up there and get Ashley, and a good neighbor brought her out to the freeway so she could just get in the car quickly. And we finished our way up to the hospital. And then we got up there, and with gratitude, I was able to get there, and Ashley was able to be there. And when we got there, she had about... Well, do you want to tell that part?
Yeah, so there's this cute story, because, Brittany has to do her thing. But she's calling some people, and leaving these sweet messages. It's almost like her body calmed. She wasn't passing out. It's like she still hurt severely, but her body had calmed enough to talk to them, and she was comforting them through the phone calls. Wow. Making sure they were okay. And she had called my dad and left a sweet message, which we still have, because and he had found out, and they were bringing him up, and there was a car accident, so he couldn't get up there. But we're dealing with all these things. Before everyone's there, Brittany said, "I want some orange juice." I'm like, okay, so we get some orange juice because, you better get it. She's, and I'm dipping it with this little sponge. They have these little sponges to just wet your mouth so you don't choke,
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and she says, "Mom, I am dying. I want some orange juice." So we give her some orange juice. I'm like, of course you would. She's enjoying her orange juice. And people just start flooding in the room. And they were like, "Are you okay?" Yes. Brittany would say, "Bring them in." Her best friend made it up there. And this friend is the dearest friend. And he was able to make it up there and be by her side. And then we're waiting. And then she reached a point where she couldn't speak to us anymore. And we had said our goodbyes. But it was the sweetest, tenderest moments, just to be in there. And the stories that were coming out in that room, we would be laughing and we would be crying. And her nurse, that had never, I don't think she's experienced this before, because she was sobbing and we were holding her, and it's okay, it's going to be okay. And we got told her, and this just the sweetest moments. And I'm just so grateful that the pain was not there, I just was so tired of that pain. And they kept saying, "It's any moment now." An hour later, "Any moment now." What is she doing? Then it hit us. My dad's not there yet. He's not there yet. And because of the car accident, and he walks in and went straight to her and gave her a kiss. And then, like 3 minutes later, she had left us. And it was just such a sweet way to just know she's going to be okay, She's not hurting.
Maybe there's a good time to say this. It's when I was going through that, at that moment, there's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can explain. There's nothing more to say. Just, "I love you. I love you." That's the last word I want you to hear out of my mouth in this life. Is that I love you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more to explain. And that was the most beautiful part of it for me, for Ashley, for Heidi, that we could just tell her that she heard those words multiple times as she made her move.
Yeah. So. And she had my sister had fallen asleep and passed away at age 30 just went to bed and had passed away.
At age 30?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and so the reason I say that is because her and Brittany were very close. Okay. And when that had happened, it's like Brittany all of a sudden was okay now. Like, if something happened to me, I'll be okay. So it's just good to know, that my sister's there, with her. We believe in that. Mm-hmm. And that I'm sure that they were there helping us, comfort us, and be there with us. And I thought, what a tender moment that must have been for them to be together, And now that she has passed, people will say, "Do you feel her? Do you feel her?" I don't know how to explain it. I believe she is just alive and just her energy without that body, I can't imagine, because with that body and her energy was unreal. And so she loves people. And I always think of her that she now has that opportunity to be with my other daughter on her mission. I believe she's able to love people that come and be there for them and comfort them and welcome them. I know that she's busy doing that, and I just feel this happiness for her. And they say, is that her? And I'm happy. Like, I miss her severely. Like, I miss her the physical touch.
Yes.
To do her hair and to carry her. That doesn't go away. I so miss her. But the excitement I feel for her is so great. I just know that the comfort she has of the no pain and being able to comfort other families, that when they go through these hard times and to be there for our family. And I wanted to mention that there's been times that I'm in my yard. And Brittany loved butterflies. And so once in a while, these little butterflies, but it's not, I just love it because they'll just kind of come and circle me a little bit and then leave. Like, how do you do that? And I see them more and I think of her. When I see a butterfly, I think of her. And I love that because it's kind of a little bit of the physicalness I can kind of contact with,
right.
Oh, I thought of my daughter.
Yes.
And she loved butterflies, and just the freedom that they have of a butterfly, the freedom they have of just flying around. I think, she is probably just so happy and just to be able to just wings. Move and I just can't imagine. And so the happiness I feel for her now overwhelms the sadness because I know that she's okay. So it doesn't mean I don't hurt, doesn't mean I don't go through those hard times and things trigger it. That's what pulls me through it. It's because I know that she wants me to be happy too and to move forward. So we keep finding ways to celebrate her. We talk about her life. We are just ones that will talk about her because she to us still has a message to share. Still. And we know that will be forever with us. She's affected us too much to not share her because we even pray for her each night. She is a member of our family. So when we pray for each one of us, she is a part of that still. Mm-hmm. She has not left that. So.
And there you have your angel missionary.
No question. There's our missionary.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I have felt Brittany here.
Thank you.
Her love, the excitement and joy that she expresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, share, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Please comment because I would love to hear about what you think and what you want to see in the future. I'm no therapist, but I am your host, Stephanie Goodman.